Commander Hansol rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the glowing screens in front of him. The monitoring station Beacon 7 floated quietly in space, far from Earth and far from anywhere interesting. Most days, nothing happened here. Today felt like another boring day. Hansol had been watching the empty darkness for 6 months now. His job was simple: listen for signals from other worlds and report anything unusual. Most of the time, he heard nothing but static and the background noise of space. Sometimes he wondered if anyone out there was actually trying to talk. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago. Hansol was thinking about making fresh coffee when his computer started beeping. The sound was different from the usual warnings. This was the emergency signal tone. Lieutenant Park Ji-won looked up from her station across the room. She was young and smart, fresh out of the Communications Academy on Earth. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her eyes were bright with curiosity. "Commander, I am getting something strange," she said in Korean, then switched to English. "The signal is not coming from any human ship." Hansol pushed his chair over to her workstation. The screen showed waves and patterns he had never seen before. The signal was weak but clearly artificial. Someone or something was trying to send a message. "Can you clean it up?" he asked. Park Ji-won's fingers danced across her keyboard. She was good at her job, better than most people twice her age. Slowly, the fuzzy signal became clearer. Strange sounds filled the room like music mixed with whispers. "It is encrypted," she said, "but the pattern looks familiar. I think I have seen something like this before." Hansol felt his heart beat faster. In all his years of monitoring space, he had never received an alien transmission. The possibility excited and scared him at the same time. "Where is it coming from?" he asked. Park Ji-won checked her instruments. "The Viridian system, sir, about 40 light-years from here." Hansol knew that name. Viridian Prime was home to the Velothi people. They were peaceful aliens who had welcomed humans into the galaxy 20 years ago. The Velothi were scholars and teachers, always sharing knowledge and helping other species learn about the universe. "Keep working on it," Hansol said. "I need to call Captain Lee." Captain Lee So-min commanded the patrol vessel Thunder of Seoul. Her ship was currently 3 days away from Beacon 7, but she needed to know about this signal right away. Hansol activated the quantum communication system and waited for the connection. Lee So-min appeared on his screen a few seconds later. She was a serious woman in her 40s with short gray hair and intelligent eyes. She had fought in the border wars and earned respect throughout the fleet. "Commander Hansol," she said. "What do you have for me?" "Captain, we are receiving an alien distress signal from the Viridian system. Lieutenant Park is working to decode it now." Lee So-min's expression changed immediately. "Viridian Prime, are you certain?" "Yes, Captain. The signal is definitely coming from there. Keep me informed of any developments. I am changing course to your position immediately." The connection ended and Hansol returned to Park Ji-won's station. She had made progress with the signal. Pieces of the message were becoming clear, though much of it remained scrambled. "I can understand some of it now," she said. "It is definitely Velothi language, but Commander, what I am hearing does not make sense." "What do you mean?" Park Ji-won played a section of the decoded message. The voice was clearly alien, speaking in the musical tones of Velothi speech. But even though Hansol did not understand their language, he could hear the fear and desperation. "The computer translation is not perfect," Park Ji-won said, "but I think they are saying something about attack and invasion. They mention fire falling from the sky and cities being destroyed." Hansol felt cold, despite the warm air in the station. The Velothi were known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature. They had no enemies that he knew of. Their world was beautiful and rich, but they had always shared their resources freely with other species. Who would attack them? He wondered aloud. Park Ji-won continued working on the signal. More pieces came together like a puzzle. Each new fragment painted a darker picture than the last. "Commander, I'm getting more of the message now. They mention the Krex Dominion." Hansol cursed in Korean. Everyone in human space had heard of the Krex. They were warriors from a harsh desert world who believed that only the strong deserved to survive. The Kreks had been expanding their territory for decades, conquering weaker species and enslaving survivors. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes, sir. The message mentions Krek ships in orbit around Viridian Prime. It says they are bombing cities and killing civilians." Park Ji-won's face was pale as she continued translating. "There is more, Commander. They say the Kreks are not just conquering. They are trying to kill every Velothi on the planet." The words hit Han Sol like a physical blow. Genocide. The Kreks were committing genocide against the gentle Velothi people. The same aliens who had taught human children about mathematics and art. The same beings who had shared their vast libraries with Earth universities. "How long ago was this message sent?" he asked. Park Ji-won checked the signal analysis. "Based on the transmission delay, I think it was sent about 6 hours ago. But Commander, there is something else." She played another section of the decoded message. This time, Han Sol could hear the desperation more clearly. "They are asking for help," Park Ji-won said quietly. "The Velothi are asking anyone who receives this message to send help. They say their defense fleet has been destroyed and their cities are burning." Han Sol stood up and walked to the large viewing window. Outside, stars twinkled peacefully in the darkness. Somewhere among those stars, innocent people were dying while he watched from safety. His communicator buzzed. It was Captain Lee calling back. "Commander, I just received orders from Terra Command. Admiral Kim wants a full report on this situation immediately. How much of the message have you decoded?" "About 60%, Captain. It is definitely a distress call from Viridian Prime. The Krek's Dominion is attacking them." There was silence on the communication line for several seconds. When Captain Lee spoke again, her voice was hard. "Send everything you have to Terra Command right now. Use priority channels. And, Commander?" "Yes, Captain?" "Admiral Kim served with Velothi officers during the peace negotiations. He will not be happy about this news." The communication ended and Han Sol turned back to Park Ji-won. She had managed to decode more of the message. Her face was wet with tears. "What is it?" he asked gently. "They mention children, Commander. The message says the Kreks are hunting Velothi families. They are killing everyone, even the little ones." Han Sol closed his eyes for a moment. The Velothi had always been kind to humans. When Earth first joined the galactic community, other species had been suspicious and afraid. Humans were known as Deathworlders because they came from such a dangerous planet. But the Velothi had welcomed them with open arms. He remembered reading about Velothi teachers who had come to Earth to work in human schools. They had been fascinated by human culture and had spent years learning about art, music, and literature. Many had formed close friendships with their human colleagues. Now those same gentle beings were being slaughtered by the Krek's war machine. Han Sol opened his eyes and looked at Park Ji-won. "Send the complete message to Terra Command. Mark it as Priority 1. "Yes, sir." As Park Ji-won transmitted their findings, Han Sol wondered what would happen next. The human government had strict policies about interfering in alien conflicts. Earth had fought hard to earn respect in the galactic community, and many politicians were afraid of making enemies. But the Velothi were not just any aliens. They were friends. They were teachers and scholars who had never hurt anyone. If humanity could not help them, what did that say about human character? Han Sol's contemplation was interrupted by another signal from his communicator. This time, it was Admiral Kim himself calling from Terra Command. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, looking grim and determined. Kim Tae-ho was a legend in the human fleet, a man who had never lost a battle and never abandoned an ally. "Commander Han Sol, I have reviewed your report. Is there any doubt about the authenticity of this message?" "No, sir. Lieutenant Park has verified the transmission source and language patterns. This is definitely from Viridian Prime." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. "Then we have a decision to make. The Velothi helped us when we needed friends in the galaxy. Now they need our help." Han Sol could see the weight of command in the Admiral's eyes. This decision could start a war between humanity and the Krek's Dominion. It could cost thousands of human lives, but it could also save an entire species from extinction. Prepare a detailed analysis of everything you have learned, Admiral Kim said. I am calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. We will decide how humanity responds to this crisis. The transmission ended, leaving Han Sol and Park Ji-won alone with the continuing alien distress signal. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the thunder of Seoul was racing toward their position. Somewhere else, innocent people were dying while waiting for help that might never come. Han Sol looked at the decoded message one more time. Despite the alien words and strange sounds, the meaning was clear. The Velathi were asking for help from anyone who would listen. They were asking someone to care enough to risk dying. Dr. Choi Min-jun walked quickly through the corridors of Terra Command, carrying a datapad filled with information that would help decide the fate of an entire species. As the fleet's leading expert on alien biology, he had been called to brief Admiral Kim and the Defense Council about the Velathi people. The meeting room was already full when he arrived. Admiral Kim sat at the head of the long table, his weathered face showing the stress of command. Around him sat the most important military leaders in human space. The air felt heavy with tension. Dr. Choi, thank you for coming so quickly, Admiral, Kim said. Please tell us what we are dealing with. Choi Min-jun activated the holographic display in the center of the room. A three-dimensional image of a Velathi appeared, showing their tall, slender bodies and large, intelligent eyes. The Velathi evolved on Viridian Prime, a world with low gravity and abundant resources, he began. Their bodies are built for thinking, not fighting. Their bones are lighter than human bones and their muscles are much weaker. Colonel Bang Hai-wan, leader of the Human Marine Expeditionary Force, leaned forward. She was a tough woman who had fought in 3 wars, but her expression was troubled. How weak are we talking about? She asked. A single human could overpower 3 or 4 Velathi without much effort, Choi Min-jun replied. But their minds are extraordinary. They can solve complex mathematical problems in seconds and remember everything they read or hear. The holographic display changed to show Velathi cities. Beautiful buildings rose like crystal flowers from green landscapes. Libraries and schools dominated the architecture, with gardens and meditation spaces between them. Their entire civilization is based on learning and sharing knowledge, Choi Min-jun continued. They have no military in the way we understand it. Their defense fleet consists of patrol ships designed for rescue and exploration, not warfare. General Won Min-ki shook his head. Then how have they survived this long? The galaxy is not a peaceful place. They have always relied on diplomacy and friendship, Choi Min-jun said. The Velathi mediated peace between dozens of warring species over the centuries. Everyone respected them because they never took sides and always tried to help. Admiral, Kim studied the images of Velathi culture. What do we know about their relationship with the Kreks? Choi Min-jun's expression darkened. The Kreks consider the Velathi to be an insult to evolution. Kreks culture believes that only the strong deserve to exist. They see Velathi philosophy as a dangerous weakness that might spread to other species. The display changed again, showing the harsh desert world of the Kreks' homeworld. Red sand dunes stretched endlessly under a burning sun. Kreks' cities looked like armed fortresses, built to withstand constant attack. The Kreks evolved in one of the most hostile environments in the galaxy, Choi Min-jun explained. Water is scarce, food is limited, and the climate is deadly. Only the strongest and most aggressive Kreks survive to adulthood. Colonel Bang Hai-wan studied the images carefully. What kind of military capability do they have? Substantial, Choi Min-jun admitted. The Kreks Dominion has conquered 17 star systems in the past 50 years. Their military doctrine is simple but effective. Overwhelming force applied, without mercy. Admiral Kim's communicator buzzed. It was a priority message from Earth. Excuse me for a moment, he said, activating the secure communication channel. President Yoo Da-eun appeared on the screen from the presidential palace in Seoul. Behind her, the lights of Earth's capital city sparkled in the night. Her face showed the weight of leadership as she addressed the assembled military commanders. Admiral Kim, I have been in emergency session with the United Nations Security Council for the past 6 hours. The debate has been intense. What is the government's position, Madam President? Admiral Kim asked. Many nations are concerned about provoking a wider conflict with the Krex Dominion, she replied. The economic and military costs could be enormous. Some members believe we should focus on protecting human interests first. Colonel Bang Hae-wan frowned. With respect, Madam President, the Velothi have always been our friends. They welcomed us when other species feared us. President Yu nodded. I am aware of that, Colonel. Which is why we had several Velothi refugees address the Security Council. The screen changed to show recorded testimony from earlier that day. A young Velothi named Valkyra stood before the assembled human leaders, her large eyes filled with tears. The humans were the first species to treat us as equals rather than curiosities, she said in accented English. When I studied at Oxford University, human students included me in their groups and invited me to their homes. I learned about human courage and loyalty. Another Velothi, an elderly scholar named Velmorin, spoke next. My research partner at the Tokyo Institute of Technology worked with me for 15 years. She called me her brother. Are brothers not supposed to help each other? The testimonies continued for several minutes. Each Velothi refugee spoke of human friends, human kindness, and human acceptance. They did not beg for help, but simply reminded the human leaders of the bonds that had been formed over 20 years of friendship. When the recordings ended, President Yu returned to the screen. The testimonies changed many minds in the Security Council. These beings are not strangers asking for charity. They are friends asking for help. Admiral Kim felt the weight of decisions settling on his shoulders. What are my orders, Madam President? The Security Council has authorized you to take whatever action you deem necessary to protect human interests and honor our commitments to allied species. The specific details are left to your military judgment. It was a politician's answer, Admiral Kim realized. If the mission succeeded, the government would claim credit. If it failed, he would bear the responsibility alone. I understand, Madam President. What about public opinion? President Yu smiled for the first time during the conversation. The South Korean public is strongly in favor of helping the Velothi. Similar polls in Japan, Australia, and Canada show overwhelming support. The American and European publics are more divided, but trending toward intervention. After the communication ended, Admiral Kim looked around the table at his senior officers. These men and women had served with him for years. They had fought together, bled together, and trusted each other with their lives. You heard the President, he said. We have authorization to act, but the decision is ours. I want honest opinions from everyone. General Won Min-ki spoke first. Sir, my ground forces are ready for deployment. But we need to understand what we are getting into. Intelligence reports suggest the Krex have over 400 ships in the Viridian system. Our fleet can handle 400 Krex ships, Colonel Bang Hae-wan said confidently. Human technology and tactics are superior to theirs. Superior? Yes, Admiral Kim agreed. But not invincible. We will take casualties, possibly heavy casualties. Dr. Choi Min-jun cleared his throat. Admiral, there is something else you should know. Captain Shin Bo-ra returned from her reconnaissance mission an hour ago. Her report is waiting for you. Admiral Kim activated his personal communicator. Captain Shin Bo-ra appeared on screen, her face grim. She commanded the stealth ship Ghost of Jeju, one of the most advanced reconnaissance vessels in the human fleet. Captain, what did you find? Sir, the situation is worse than we thought. The Krex are not just conquering Viridian Prime. They are systematically destroying Velothi culture. The screen filled with images from Shin Bo-ra's stealth mission. Ancient libraries burned while Krex soldiers threw books into the flames. Beautiful artwork was smashed and trampled. Velothi families huddled in ruins while Krex hunters searched for survivors. They are using orbital bombardment to target cultural sites specifically, Captain Shin continued. Museums, schools, temples, anything that represents Velothi civilization. This is not conquest, Admiral. This is cultural genocide. The images continued, each one more heartbreaking than the last. Velothi children cried over the bodies of their parents. Elderly scholars were executed for refusing to renounce their beliefs. Ancient songs and stories died with their keepers. How many Velothi are still alive? Admiral Kim asked. Our estimates suggest perhaps 2 million survivors out of an original population of 40 million, Captain Shin replied. But the number is dropping rapidly. The Kreks are hunting them systematically. When the report ended, the meeting room was silent. Every person at the table understood the implications. If humanity did nothing, the Velothi would be extinct within weeks. Admiral Kim stood up and walked to the large viewing window that looked out over Terra Command's busy spaceport. Hundreds of ships moved through the traffic patterns carrying cargo and passengers across human space. It was a scene of peace and prosperity built on the sacrifices of previous generations. 20 years ago, when humanity first joined the galactic community, we were alone and afraid, he said. Other species saw us as dangerous barbarians from a death world. Only the Velothi welcomed us with open arms. He turned back to face his officers. They taught our children. They shared their knowledge freely. They treated us as equals when no one else would. Colonel Bang Hai-wan nodded. They stood up for us in the Galactic Council when the hegemony tried to restrict our expansion, and now they are dying while we debate politics, General Wan Min-ki added. The human armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Viridian system like an avenging angel. 847 ships of all sizes dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The sight was magnificent and terrifying. At the same time, Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Guardian, watching the tactical displays update with new information. What he saw made his heart heavy with sorrow and his blood burn with anger. Viridian Prime hung in space like a wounded animal. The beautiful blue and green world that had once been the center of galactic learning was now scarred with brown patches, where cities had burned. Smoke clouds drifted through the atmosphere, blocking the light of the system's golden sun. Fleet Admiral Jang Hyun-woo, Admiral Kim's second-in-command, stood beside him studying the enemy positions. Jang was a careful planner who never rushed into battle without understanding every detail. Sir, sensors are detecting 412 Krex vessels in various orbits around the planet, he reported. Most of them are positioned over the major population centers. They are using the remaining Velothi as human shields, Admiral Kim said grimly. The cowards know we will not fire on civilian areas. Captain Oh Seung-gi's hospital ship, Mercy of Busan, was already moving toward the outer edge of the system where Velothi refugee ships drifted in space. Many of the small vessels were damaged and leaking atmosphere. Some had lost power completely and were drifting helplessly. Admiral, this is Captain O. Her voice came over the communication system. I am detecting life signs on most of the refugee ships, but many of them need immediate medical attention. Begin rescue operations immediately, Admiral Kim ordered. Use all available resources. As human medical ships moved to help the refugees, the Krex fleet began to respond to the arrival of the Armada. The alien warships were ugly things, built like hammers rather than swords. Their hulls were thick and heavily armored, designed to absorb punishment rather than avoid it. A communication signal came from the largest Krex vessel, a massive dreadnought that dominated the space above Viridian, Prime's capital city. The signal was broadcast on all frequencies so every ship in both fleets could hear it. I am War Chieftain Skarax of the Krex Dominion, the voice said in broken English. Human ships, you will leave this system immediately. Viridian Prime belongs to the Krex by right of conquest. Admiral Kim activated his own fleet-wide communication system. His response would be heard by every human and Krex warrior in the system. This is Admiral Kim Tae-ho of the Human Defense Fleet. War Chieftain Skarax, you are committing genocide against a peaceful species. We demand that you cease all attacks on Velothi civilians and withdraw from this system. The reply came quickly, filled with arrogance and contempt. The weak deserve to be conquered by the strong. This is the natural law of the universe. Your species is soft like these philosopher slaves. Leave now or burn with them. Lieutenant Commander Park So-young led a squadron of reconnaissance fighters on a patrol around the system's edge. Her ships were small and fast, designed to gather information without being detected. What she found made her sick to her stomach. Admiral, You need to see this, she transmitted back to the flagship. The images from her fighters appeared on the main screen. Floating in space near one of the system's moons were massive structures that looked like floating cities. But these were not cities for living. They were processing stations for sorting captured Velothi. Captain Osungi had managed to rescue several hundred Velothi from the damaged refugee ships. As her medical teams treated the survivors, terrible stories emerged. The rescued aliens spoke of family members being taken to the processing stations and never seen again. Beltaran, an elderly Velothi diplomat who had worked with humans for many years, was brought to Admiral Kim's flagship. He was badly injured from plasma burns, but insisted on speaking to the Admiral personally. "My friend Kim," he said weakly, using the informal tone that showed their long friendship. "You should not have come. The Kreks will destroy your ships just as they destroyed ours." Admiral Kim knelt beside the alien's medical bed. Veltaran had been Earth's first ambassador to the Velothi homeworld. He had spent 5 years on Earth, learning human languages and culture. His children had attended human schools. "We could not abandon you," Admiral Kim said simply. "Friends do not abandon friends." Veltaran's large eyes filled with tears. "My people are grateful for your friendship, but please, save who you can and leave. Do not let human families suffer for our sake." "How many Velothi are still on the planet?" Admiral Kim asked. "Perhaps 1 million in the cities that still stand. But the Kreks are hunting them building by building. They will all be dead within days unless something changes." General Wan Min-ki joined the conversation. His ground forces were ready for deployment, but the situation was complicated. "Sir, we can deploy Marine units to protect the remaining population centers, but we will need to eliminate the orbital bombardment platforms first." Admiral Kim studied the tactical displays again. The Kreks had positioned their most powerful ships directly over Velothi cities. Any attack on those vessels would risk civilian casualties from falling debris. "What about the processing stations?" he asked. Lieutenant Commander Park So-young provided more details from her reconnaissance mission. "Sir, sensors indicate thousands of life signs aboard each station. They appear to be holding captured Velothi for sorting and transportation." The truth was horrible but clear. The Kreks were not just killing Velothi. They were processing them like livestock, separating the useful from the useless before disposing of the rest. Admiral Kim made his decision. "Fleet Admiral Zhang, prepare for a 3-phase operation. Phase 1, strike teams will assault the processing stations to free the prisoners. Phase 2, Marine forces will deploy to protect the remaining cities on the planet. Phase 3, the main fleet will engage the Kreks." "Armada." "Sir," Fleet Admiral Zhang said carefully, "the Kreks outnumber us significantly. Our ships are more advanced, but in a straight fight we could take heavy casualties." "Then we will not fight straight," Admiral Kim replied. "Humans have never won by being predictable." War Chieftain Scarrick sent one final message to the human fleet. "You have 5 minutes to begin withdrawal, or we will demonstrate why the Kreks Dominion has never lost a war." Admiral Kim's reply was heard throughout both fleets. "War Chieftain Scarrick's, we are humans. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day in every way imaginable. We learned to survive by protecting each other. We learned to fight by defending those who cannot defend themselves." He paused, looking out at the stars where innocent people were dying while he spoke. "You want to fight humans? Then learn what it means to face a species that fights hardest when defending others. You want our friends? You will have to go through us." The communication ended, leaving both fleets facing each other across the darkness of space. The Kreks had expected the humans to retreat when faced with superior numbers. Instead, they found themselves confronting an enemy that seemed to grow more dangerous when the odds were against them. On the processing stations, captured Velothi huddled together in holding areas, not knowing that help was coming. In the burning cities below, survivors watched the stars and wondered if anyone cared about their suffering. Above them all, 2 philosophies prepared to clash in the vacuum of space. The Kreks believed that strength came from conquering the weak. The humans believed that strength came from protecting the innocent. Admiral Kim gave the order that would begin the largest space battle in human history. All units execute Phase 1. Show them what human friendship looks like. The processing stations were about to learn that when humans made friends, they kept them. And when someone threatened those friends, humans became the most dangerous species in the galaxy. War Chieftain Scarex was about to discover why other species called humans Deathworlders. It had nothing to do with where they came from. It had everything to do with what they would do for the people they cared about. Battle for Viridian Prime was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Kang Ji-hoon watched his tactical display as the battleship Indomitable Spirit led the central attack formation toward the Krex fleet. Around him, his bridge crew worked with calm precision, despite knowing they were flying into the largest space battle in human history. Enemy vessels are powering weapons, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Seo Min-young. They are forming a defensive wall around the planet. Good, Kang Ji-hoon said calmly. Predictable formations make predictable targets. Execute attack pattern Delta 7. The human fleet moved like a three-dimensional chess game come to life. Instead of charging straight at the enemy in a traditional formation, the ship split into dozens of smaller groups that attacked from unexpected angles. The Krex had expected a simple battle between two fleets. What they got was something that hurt their brains to understand. Human ships appeared above them, below them, and from directions that seemed impossible. War Chieftain Scarex stood on his command deck watching displays he could not comprehend. "Why are they not attacking our center?" he demanded. "Why do they split their forces like frightened prey animals?" His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Grakor, was younger and had studied human military history. "War Chief, I believe they are using what they call tactics. They fight like hunters rather than warriors." The first exchange of weapons fire lit up space with deadly beauty. Krex plasma cannons fired massive bolts of superheated gas that could melt through the heaviest armor. Human railguns responded with solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds that punched through shields like bullets through paper. Captain Nam Yuna led her fighter squadron, the Soul Reapers, through the chaos of the battle. Her small ships were fast and agile, designed to slip between the massive capital ships and strike at weak points. "Remember your training," she told her pilots over the communication system. "Krex fighters move in straight lines because that is how they hunt on their homeworld. Use that against them." The Soul Reapers had trained in Earth's chaotic weather patterns, learning to fly through thunderstorms and hurricanes. Compared to that, space combat felt almost easy. They dove and twisted through formations that would have made Krex pilots sick with confusion. Meanwhile, Commander Bae Jun-ho's Special Forces team was approaching the largest processing station. Their ship was a stealth vessel designed to be invisible to most sensors. Inside the cramped craft, 24 commandos prepared for the most important mission of their lives. "Remember, we are not here to kill Krex," Bae Jun-ho told his team. "We are here to save Valathi. Every second we waste fighting is another second those people suffer." The processing station was a horrible sight up close. It looked like a giant factory floating in space with conveyor systems and sorting mechanisms visible through transparent sections. Thousands of captured Valathi could be seen inside, waiting in holding areas for their turn to be processed. Bae Jun-ho's team attached their ship to a maintenance airlock and cut through the hull with plasma torches. They moved quickly through the station's corridors, stunning Krex guards with non-lethal weapons and freeing captured Valathi as they went. The aliens they rescued were in terrible condition. Many had been beaten or tortured. All of them were terrified and confused. But when they saw human faces, hope returned to their eyes. "You came," whispered an elderly Valathi scholar named Velkorin. "We thought everyone had forgotten us." "Humans do not forget friends," Bae Jun-ho replied as he cut the restraints from the aliens' wrists. Back in the main battle, the Krex fleet was learning that human tactical thinking was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Captain Kang Ji-hoon's battleship used its advanced computer systems to predict enemy movements and counter them before the Krex realized what was happening. The Indomitable Spirit's main guns fired in sequence, each shot aimed at a different target. Instead of trying to destroy Krex ships outright, The human vessel targeted weapon systems and engines, crippling enemies without wasting time on total destruction. "Sir, the enemy is beginning to retreat toward the planet," Lieutenant Seo reported. "They are pulling back to their defensive positions. Let them," Kang Ji-hoon said. "Fleet Admiral Jang, this is indomitable spirit. The outer defense line is broken. Beginning Phase 2. Phase 2 was the most dangerous part of the plan. Colonel Lee Yoon-ju's Marines had to deploy directly to the planet's surface while the space battle continued overhead. Their job was to protect the remaining Valathi cities from Krek's ground forces. The Marines launched from their transport ships in small drop pods that screamed through Viridian Prime's atmosphere like falling meteors. Each pod carried 4 soldiers in powered armor designed for combat in hostile environments. Lee Yoon-ju's pod landed in the central plaza of Viridian Prime's capital city. What she saw when she stepped out made her angry enough to forget her fear. Beautiful buildings that had stood for thousands of years lay in ruins. Ancient artwork was scattered in broken pieces across the streets. "All squads, this is Colonel Lee," she broadcast to her forces. "Remember, we are here to protect civilians. Engage Krek's forces only when necessary to complete that mission." Bandi. Valathi survivors who emerged from hiding could not believe their eyes. Human soldiers in battle armor were walking through their ruined city, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Many of the aliens had never seen humans in person before. A young Valathi named Velthari approached Colonel Lee carefully. She was perhaps the equivalent of a human teenager, with large eyes full of curiosity despite the horror around her. "Are you really here to help us?" she asked in carefully pronounced English. Colonel Lee knelt down to the alien's eye level and removed her helmet so Velthari could see her face. "Yes, little one. We are here to help. Can you tell me where other survivors are hiding?" Back in space, the battle was reaching its turning point. War Chieftain Scarex had ordered his fleet to fall back to their final defensive positions around the planet. But the human tactics were causing confusion and panic among his forces. "War Chief," Sub-Commander Grakor reported, "we have lost 17 ships, and the humans have only lost 3. Their weapons are more accurate than ours, and their ships move in ways our gunners cannot predict." Scarex roared in frustration. "Impossible. We outnumber them by more than 100 ships. How can we be losing?" The answer was simple but difficult for Krek's minds to understand. Human ships fought as a coordinated team, each vessel supporting the others in complex patterns. Krek's ships fought as individual warriors, each captain trying to win personal glory. Captain Nam Yun-ah's fighter squadron had penetrated deep into the Krek's formation and was now attacking the enemy capital ships directly. Her pilots targeted the reactor cores and weapon systems, causing maximum damage with minimal effort. "Sol Leader, this is Sol 7, came a voice over her radio. "I have a clear shot at the enemy flagship's main reactor." "Negative, Sol 7, Nam Yuna replied. "Too many civilians below us. If that ship explodes, the debris could hit the planet." It was a perfect example of the difference between human and Krek's thinking. The Kreks would have taken the shot regardless of civilian casualties. The humans found another way. Commander Bae-jun Ho's team had successfully liberated 3 processing stations, freeing over 10,000 Valathi prisoners. But the largest station still held thousands more, and Krek's reinforcements were moving. "To defend it, sir, we are running out of time," reported Sergeant Park Dong-min. "Krek's security forces are converging on our position." Bae-jun Ho made a decision that epitomized human military thinking. "Then we hold this position until every prisoner is free. No one gets left behind." His commandos set up defensive positions around the station's main hangar, preparing to fight against overwhelming odds to protect alien civilians they had never met before today. It was exactly the kind of suicidal bravery that made other species call humans crazy, but it was also exactly the kind of loyalty that made humans the most trusted allies in the galaxy. On the planet's surface, Colonel Lee Yoon-ju's Marines had established a defensive perimeter around the capital city. Krek's ground forces were massing for an assault, but they seemed confused by human tactics. The Kreks expected their enemies to meet them in open battle, warrior against warrior. Instead, the humans used the ruins of the city to create ambush points and defensive positions. Every street corner became a trap. every building a fortress. Young Velthari had become Colonel Lee's unofficial guide, leading the Marines to hidden groups of survivors throughout the city. The alien child had lost her family to Krex hunters, but she refused to despair as long as the humans were there to protect her people. "Colonel Lee," she said in her careful English, "there are more survivors in the old library, but the Krex have surrounded the building." Lee looked at the tactical map on her wrist display. The library was 6 blocks away through enemy-controlled territory. A smart military commander would write off those civilians as unavoidable losses, but humans had never been accused of being smart. They were accused of being loyal. "Second Squad, this is Colonel Lee. We have civilians trapped in Sector 7. Prepare for extraction mission." "Ma'am," came the reply from Sergeant Kim Bo-ram. "That area is crawling with Krex patrols." "Then we crawl right back," Lee replied. "Move out." In space above them, Admiral Kim watched the battle unfold on. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of Eternal Guardian, watching his tactical displays with growing concern. The space battle was going well, but War Chieftain Skarax had just made a move that could destroy everything they were fighting to save. "Sir, sensors are detecting massive energy buildups from the Krex orbital bombardment platforms," reported Captain Lim Hana, his operations officer. "They appear to be charging planet-killer weapons." Commander Cho Tae-min looked up from his console with alarm. "Admiral, those platforms could crack Viridian Prime's crust within 2 hours. Even if we win this battle, the planet will be uninhabitable." Lieutenant No So-jin, the youngest bridge officer, spoke with quiet determination. "Sir, my analysis shows we can stop the platforms, but it would require direct assault runs. The casualty estimates are severe." Admiral Kim closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command pressing down on him like a physical force. He could order his fleet to withdraw and save human lives, but that would mean abandoning millions of Velothi civilians to certain death. When he opened his eyes, his decision was clear. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim. Execute Protocol Delta. We will stop those platforms regardless of cost." Protocol Delta was the formation every human captain hoped they would never have to use. It maximized firepower while accepting catastrophic casualties. Ships would move into direct firing positions, knowing they would be destroyed in the process. Captain Song Min-ho, commanding the heavy cruiser Pride of Incheon, received his orders with calm acceptance. His ship was assigned to attack the largest bombardment platform, a massive structure that could destroy entire continents with a single shot. "Crew, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We have been given the honor of saving millions of innocent lives. Some of us will not survive the next hour, but our sacrifice will mean something." The Pride of Incheon accelerated toward the bombardment platform, its shields already taking heavy fire from Krex defensive weapons. Song Min-ho's crew worked with desperate efficiency, knowing their time was measured in minutes. "Sir, forward. Shields are failing," reported his tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 7 and 8. "Continue the attack," Song Min-ho ordered. "Target their reactor core." On the planet's surface, General Yoon Hae-rin led her special forces in a desperate mission to capture the Krex Ground Command Center. Intelligence suggested that the enemy commanders could disable the orbital weapons if they chose to surrender. Major Kim Bo-kyung's assault team fought through layers of automated defenses, advancing meter by meter through the underground complex. The Krex had built their command post deep within Viridian Prime's crust, thinking it would be safe from attack. They had not counted on human determination. "General, we are taking heavy casualties," Kim Bo-kyung reported over her radio. "But we are only 50 meters from the command center." "Keep pushing, Major," Yoon Hae-rin replied. "Every second counts." Dr. Seo Ja-young, the fleet's xenopsychologist, had been studying Krex tactical patterns throughout the battle. From her position aboard a medical ship, she made a discovery that could change everything. "Admiral Kim, this is Dr. Seo," she broadcast on the command frequency. "I think I understand why the Krex are making such poor tactical decisions." "Explain quickly, Doctor." "Sir, Krex culture cannot process the concept of tactical retreat. In their minds, any backward movement means permanent defeat. They literally cannot understand the idea of giving ground to gain strategic advantage." "Admiral, Kim saw the implications immediately. Can we use this against them? Yes, sir. If we create situations where they must choose between retreat and destruction, they will choose destruction every time. We can use their own psychology to trap them. The breakthrough came at the cost of Captain Song Min-ho's life. The Pride of Incheon rammed directly into the bombardment platform's reactor core, creating an explosion that lit up the entire star system. The massive structure broke apart in a chain of secondary explosions. Song Min-ho's final transmission was heard throughout the human fleet. Tell my wife and children that I died for something that mattered. Tell them the Valathi are safe. His sacrifice inspired the entire armada. Captain after captain led similar attacks against the remaining platforms. Each assault was a calculated trade of human lives for Valathi survival. On the planet below, young Velathari had appointed herself as Colonel Lee Yunju's unofficial assistant. The alien child moved through the ruins of her city, guiding Marines, to hidden survivors and warning them of Krek's patrol movements. Colonel Lee, she said urgently, there are 50 Valathi hiding in the old museum, but Krek's soldiers are about to find them. Lee looked at her tactical display. The museum was 8 blocks away through heavily defended territory. Her forces were already stretched thin, protecting other civilian groups. A traditional military commander would have made the hard choice to save who they could and abandon the rest. But Lee was a human Marine, and Marines had a simple rule. Nobody gets left behind. 3rd Platoon, prepare for immediate deployment, she ordered. We have civilians in danger. Ma'am, replied Sergeant Park Sung-ho. That sector is swarming with hostiles. We could lose half our people. Then we better be twice as good as usual, Lee said grimly. The rescue mission turned into running battle through the ruined streets. Human Marines in powered armor leaped from building to building, using their superior mobility to outmaneuver Krek's ground forces. When they reached the museum, they found the Valathi survivors huddled around their most precious possessions, books and artworks that represented thousands of years of their civilization's history. We cannot leave these behind, pleaded an elderly Velathi curator named Velhorin. They are all that remains of our culture. Colonel Lee looked at the precious artifacts, then at her soldiers' faces. They were already carrying wounded civilians and had limited space in their transport vehicles. Load everything, she ordered. If it matters to them, it matters to us. Back in space, War Chieftain Scarex watched his bombardment platforms die one by one. The human ships were destroying themselves to stop his ultimate weapons, and he could not understand why. Sub-Commander Grakor, he said to his second-in-command, explain to me why these humans sacrifice their lives for aliens they barely know. Grakor had been studying human behavior throughout the battle. War Chief, I believe they fight not for conquest or glory, but for something they call friendship. Friendship is weakness, Scarex replied automatically. The strong conquer the weak. This is the natural order. But War Chief, Grakor said carefully, they are defeating us. If friendship is weakness, why are we losing to weak opponents? The question shook Scarex to his core. Everything he believed about strength and weakness was being challenged by these strange humans who fought hardest when defending others. Scholar Velmoran, one of the Valathi leaders who had survived the initial attacks, made his way to Admiral Kim's flagship aboard a refugee ship. Despite his injuries, he insisted on speaking to the human commander personally. Admiral Kim, he said when they met in the ship's medical bay, my people will never forget what you have done for us today. You have lost many of your own people to save ours. We save friends, Admiral Kim replied simply. That is what friends do. Velmoran's large eyes filled with tears. But we are not even the same species. Our worlds are light years apart. What do you gain from our friendship? Admiral Kim thought for a moment, then smiled. We gain the knowledge that we are not alone in the universe. We gain teachers who show us new ways to think. We gain the certainty that when we need help, someone will come for us too. The final assault on the last bombardment platform was led by Captain An Sung-ho of the destroyer Soul's Pride. His ship was smaller than the others that had made similar attacks, but it was also faster and more maneuverable. All ships, this is Soul's Pride, he transmitted as his vessel dove toward the massive platform. "Watch how a destroyer does this job." Instead of ramming the platform directly, An Sung-ho used his ship's superior speed to dodge defensive fire, while his weapons targeted specific weak points. The platform's destruction was surgical rather than suicidal. As the last bombardment platform exploded into debris, cheers echoed throughout the human fleet. The immediate threat to Viridian Prime was over, but the battle was far from finished. War Chieftain Scarix, seeing his ultimate weapons destroyed, made one final desperate decision. He ordered his remaining ships to ram the human fleet directly, hoping to take as many enemies with him as possible. "If we cannot win with honor," he broadcast to his fleet, "we will die with honor." But Admiral Kim had one more lesson to teach, the crux about human thinking. Instead of meeting the enemy charge with force, he ordered his ships to scatter and regroup in defensive formations. "Let them come," he told his captains, "but we will not throw away lives unnecessarily. Every human who survives this battle can help rebuild what was destroyed." As Krek's ships accelerated toward their final charge, they found themselves attacking empty space. The human fleet had melted away like morning mist, regrouping in positions where they could pick off the attackers one by one. For the first time in his life, War Chieftain Scarix began to understand that there might be different kinds of strength. The humans had shown him courage that came from 3 hours after the last bombardment platform exploded. War Chieftain Scarix found himself staring at something he had never seen before: defeat. His mighty fleet was reduced to less than 200 ships, many of them damaged and limping. The human armada still had over 600 vessels ready for battle. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of Eternal Guardian, watching the Krek's formations on his tactical display. The enemy ships had stopped their advance and were holding position, near one of Viridian Prime's moons. For the first time in the battle, they seemed uncertain about what to do next. "Sir, we are receiving a communication request from the Krek's flagship," reported Captain Lim Hana. "Put him through," Admiral Kim said. War Chieftain Scarix appeared on the main screen. His reptilian features showed exhaustion and confusion. Behind him, his command deck was filled with smoke and sparking equipment. "Human Admiral," he said slowly, "I do not understand your species. You fight like demons when protecting others. But you stopped your advance when you could have destroyed us completely. Why?" Admiral Kim considered his answer carefully. "War Chief, we came here to save the Velethi people, not to destroy the Kreks. Our mission is complete, but we are your enemies," Scarix replied. "We tried to kill your friends. In Krek's law, enemies must be destroyed or they will return stronger. Perhaps that is the difference between our peoples," Admiral Kim said. "We believe enemies can become friends if given the chance." On the planet's surface, Captain Oh Sung-gi coordinated the massive medical relief effort from her hospital ship. Human doctors worked alongside Velethi healers to treat thousands of wounded civilians. The cultural exchange was remarkable too. Watch Chief Warrant Officer Hong Da-som led teams of human engineers who were already beginning to repair Viridian Prime's damaged infrastructure. They worked without being asked, sharing their technology and expertise freely. Young Velthari had become something of a celebrity among the human Marines. The alien child followed Colonel Lee Yunju everywhere, translating between the humans and other Velethi survivors. "Colonel Lee," she said in her improving English, "the elder Velkorin wants to thank your soldiers personally, but he does not know how humans show gratitude." Lee smiled and knelt down to the child's level. "Tell him that seeing his people safe and happy is all the thanks we need." As Velthari translated, the elderly Velethi scholar's eyes filled with tears. He approached Colonel Lee slowly and offered her a small flower from the ruins of his garden. The simple gesture spread throughout both fleets as images were transmitted between ships. Velethi survivors were offering flowers to their human rescuers, a traditional symbol of gratitude and peace in their culture. Sub-Commander Grakor, War Chieftain Scarix's second-in-command, watched these transmissions with growing amazement. "War Chief, look at how the humans behave with their victory. They tend to the wounded and rebuild what was destroyed. They celebrate with flowers instead of weapons." Scarix studied the images in silence. Everything he had been taught about, Strength and weakness was being challenged by what he saw. The humans had proven they could fight with incredible ferocity, but they had also shown mercy when they could have chosen revenge. A group of Velati children, led by Velthari, approached the neutral zone between the two fleets in a small civilian transport. They carried armloads of flowers from their ruined world, symbols of hope growing from destruction. "We want to give flowers to everyone," Velthari announced over the communication channels. "To the humans who saved us, and to the Kreks who might choose to be friends instead of enemies." The sight of alien children offering flowers to battle-hardened warriors created a moment of perfect silence throughout both fleets. Even the most hardened Krek soldiers found themselves staring at the innocent faces on their screens. War Chieftain Scarex left his flagship in a small shuttle, accompanied only by Sub-Commander Grakor. He met Admiral Kim in the neutral zone, where the Valathi children waited with their flowers. The two military commanders faced each other in the cramped shuttle bay. Scarex was larger and more powerfully built, but Admiral Kim showed no fear. Between them, Velthari held a single white flower. "I have fought in 100 battles across 50 worlds," Scarex said slowly. "I have conquered species and destroyed civilizations, but I have never seen warriors who fight harder to protect others than to destroy enemies." Velthari stepped forward and offered the flower to the massive Krek's war chief. Her small hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. "This is for you," she said in careful English. "My people believe that flowers can grow anywhere if someone cares for them, even in the desert." Scarex stared at the delicate white flower for a long moment. His clawed hands, designed for wielding weapons, seemed too large and crude to accept such a fragile gift. But slowly, carefully, he took the flower from the child's hands. "I do not understand," he said quietly. "My people destroyed your cities. We killed your families. Why do you offer me peace?" Velthari looked up at the towering alien warrior with eyes that held no hatred, only sadness and hope. "Because Colonel Lee taught me that enemies can become friends. She said that is what makes humans strong." Admiral Kim watched this exchange with growing amazement. A Krek's war chief who had never shown mercy to anyone was being taught about forgiveness by a child whose world he had nearly destroyed. "War chief," Admiral Kim said gently, "your people and mine see strength differently. You believe strength comes from conquering others. We believe it comes from protecting them." Scarex looked from the flower in his hands to the faces around him. Human soldiers who could have killed him stood ready to defend the very aliens he had tried to exterminate. "But which way is correct?" he asked. "Perhaps both," Admiral Kim replied. "Your people are strong warriors, but imagine if that strength was used to protect the innocent instead of conquering the weak." Sub-Commander Grakor spoke for the first time. "War Chief, we have always believed that only the strong deserve to survive. But these humans show strength by helping the weak survive. Maybe there are different kinds of strength." The conversation was interrupted by urgent communications from both fleets. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy as news of the battle spread. The Galactic Council was calling for emergency sessions. Other species were taking sides. "Admiral Kim," came a message from Earth. "This is President Yu. The entire galaxy is watching what happens next. Your decisions here will shape interstellar relations for generations." War Chieftain Scarex received similar messages from the Krek's homeworld. "War Chief, you have brought shame to the Dominion by failing to conquer these soft humans. Return home immediately for judgment." But something had changed in the old warrior's eyes. He looked at the flower still clutched in his massive hand, then at the Valathi child who had given it to him. "Sub-Commander Grakor," he said slowly, "send a message to the Krek's High Command. Tell them that War Chieftain Scarex has learned something important about strength." "What shall I tell them, War Chief?" "Tell them that the humans fight not as conquerors, but as protectors. Tell them that perhaps there is strength in defending others instead of destroying them." Admiral Kim felt a spark of hope. "War Chief, does this mean you are willing to end this conflict?" Scarex was quiet for several minutes, struggling with concepts that went against everything he had been taught. Finally, he spoke. "Admiral Kim, I cannot undo what my people have done to the Valathi, but I can choose what we do next. I formally surrender my remaining forces to your command. The word sent shockwaves through both fleets. A Krex war chief had never surrendered in the recorded history of their species. The concept did not exist in their language or culture. But Grakor stepped forward and supported his commander. War Chief Scarek speaks for all Krex forces. We surrender and request terms. Admiral Kim's response surprised everyone, including his own officers. I do not accept your surrender, War Chief. I do not understand, Scarek said, confused. Surrender implies that you are defeated and we are victorious, Admiral Kim explained. But this is not about victory or defeat. This is about choosing a different path forward. He gestured to the Velothi children still holding their flowers. Instead of surrender, I propose partnership. Help us rebuild what was destroyed. Use your strength to protect instead of conquer. The idea was radical beyond imagination. Humans and Krex working together. Former enemies becoming allies in the work of healing a wounded world. 3 months later, Viridian Prime was beginning to recover from the devastation. Human engineers worked alongside Krex construction crews to rebuild cities. Human doctors shared medical knowledge with Krex healers. Human teachers worked with Velothi scholars to preserve the endangered culture. Velthari had become a bridge between all 3 species. She spoke fluent English and was learning Krex language as well. Her favorite activity was teaching Krex children how to grow flowers in the desert soil of their temporary camps. War Chieftain Scarex, now calling himself simply Scarex, had undergone a transformation that amazed everyone who knew him. The fierce warrior had become a student of philosophy, learning from Velothi teachers about the concepts of peace and cooperation. Sub-Commander Grakor had been promoted to lead the Krex reconstruction efforts. His first official act was to establish a memorial for